I'm here with Louise Crook today, who is a partner in our real estate team who deals with veterinary property matters. So, Louise, there's recently been some changes to the use class under the planning law. What's changed?
Morning, Steph. We have recently had the introduction of some new regulations which have reclassified veterinary use. So the snappily titled Town and Country Planning Use Classes Amendment Regulations 2020 moved veterinary use from its previous sui generis category, which was really quite specific, to a much broader and more general category called Class E. And Class E effectively incorporates a whole bunch of uses. It's generally called the sort of commercial service and sort of office class use, and will incorporate things like offices, clinics, financial and professional services, day nurseries, and of course vets. The purpose of this change, the sort of government's driving force, was to repurpose as much of the existing building stock as possible to create more general use classes so that they can get the best out of existing stock, if you like.
So clearly there'll be an impact on both landlords and tenants. What will be the impact for landlords? How does it affect them?
So your typical landlord in this instance that we come across will be vets who potentially in the past sold their businesses to corporate acquirers but retained the property, and those properties are let out on 10-15 year leases to existing practices. Those landlords can now find themselves in a broader use class, which means that the potential pool of tenants available to them for that building has suddenly got much wider. So what does that mean practically for them? Practically, that means that you've got a greater pool of tenants that you can go and fish in. And if that's the case, then that naturally is going to make your property more valuable, because you've got a broader pool of people that you can find as tenants. So not only is that going to increase your property reversionary value, the value of the capital investment, if you like, but also the potential rental values, because there's more competition for that particular building.
So looking at tenants then, what's the benefit for them?
So your typical tenant is your vet business, operating out of a practice where you have a landlord in place, and you're thinking, you know, as a result of what I just said, oh well, increased rental values, that's not good. But there are some advantages for tenants, and they're around flexibility. So a tenant is going to find that if they are looking at, say for example, you have a corporate acquirer who has a number of branch clinics very close to each other and wants to rationalise and thinks, oh, well, I don't want to use that branch clinic anymore. Now potentially you could sell the remainder of the terms of the lease to a wider group of people. So it's not now just available for another vet to move into, but potentially a day nursery or a health clinic or a professional service. You could market that property to them, and they could move in without having to get a planning permission for a change of use. That's the key point. You could always have done this previously, but you would have needed a planning permission for change of use. That's no longer required. So that's helpful for tenants. They've got greater flexibility. They themselves, if you are a veterinary practice that wants to expand into another area, previously you would have had a smaller pool of properties from which you could source your next clinic. Whereas now you can look at potentially buildings that are currently being used as a day nursery or a health clinic and see whether that building would be adaptable for use as a veterinary clinic, provided the landlord gives you that permitted use under the lease. So a couple of advantages there for tenants going forward.
So is there a particular point in time when these changes would be important to veterinary practices?
Yeah, absolutely. So if vets now are thinking about selling a practice or buying a new practice or relocating their practice, it would be useful to come to us to have a look at the potential implications of these changes. It may give them more opportunities than they think they've currently got. They may feel like they're restricted to only looking at existing vet practices, whereas of course, as we've identified now, there's greater opportunities out there. And at HCR, not only do we have a real estate team made up of numerous solicitors who are able to help on real estate matters, but we also have a 5-strong planning team who are able to assist on the planning side of things, where you may have more complicated questions in relation to planning process.